الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين على محمد وآل محمد واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. One of the most important topics concerning Islamic law is the topic of the Islamic lunar month. And when the Islamic lunar month begins. Because you see, this has a great effect on our timed worships. For example, Ramadan. We fast in Ramadan. We stop fasting in Shawwal. So we have to know when the lunar month of Ramadan begins for us to know when we start fasting. And we have to know when the month of Shawwal begins so that we stop fasting. Likewise, Hajj. If we want to perform a correct Hajj, we have to know when Dhul Hijjah begins, because we have to go to Arafah on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. So our fasting, our Hajj, it's all dependent on determining the lunar month in the Islamic calendar. And you find there is lots of controversy always surrounding this topic. There's lots of confusion, misunderstanding, and there's lots of criticism that's always being directed towards Islam in general, or in specific the scholars. Many people will tell you our scholars are so backwards, that in this day and age of technology and science, all the advances in science, our scholars are still using on old archaic methods to determine the new month. They have to wait until the moon is sighted. They need witnesses to see it, when now you can use science to predict all of that. And you find people especially make this claim when the Eid comes. Every community I go, 2 days before the Eid, you find people, they begin to criticize the ulama. Our ulama are so backwards. Our ulama, our scholars are this. They can't agree on something as simple as the Eid. So they have the idea that the Eid is a very simple task to determine. And there's lots of confusion. And people they get impatient after fasting 28, 29 days. They get so impatient that they begin to accuse the scholars. And that's why tonight I want to look over this topic. And I want to examine it through 3 steps in order for us to understand how the Islamic lunar calendar works. Number 1, when does the Islamic lunar month technically begin? Number 2, can we use science to predict the new month? And number 3, why do the scholars disagree on the day of Eid, and what are the solutions to this disagreement? So we begin with the first point. When does the Islamic lunar month technically begin? You see, in some non-Islamic lunar calendars, the new month begins with the new moon. Whenever the new moon happens, whenever the new moon is born, this is when the new lunar month begins. And just to quickly explain what the new moon is, as we know, the moon orbits around the earth every month. And the farther away it goes from the direction of the sun, the more complete we see it, until it turns into a full moon. And then the closer it goes towards the direction of the sun, the smaller we see it as a crescent, until we are no longer able to see it. So the moon, when it goes closer and closer towards the direction of the sun, it reaches a stage in which it is perfectly between Earth and the sun, a perfect line. The astronomers call this point the conjunction. The Earth, the moon, and then right behind the moon is the sun. They're on one perfect line. When this happens, the new moon is born. Now at this point, when the moon is exactly between the Earth and the sun, you're not able to see the moon. It is impossible to see the moon. Why? Because there's no light for you to see it. The moon has no light of its own. It uses the light of the sun. The sun is behind it. So all the light is being reflected back towards the sun. There is no light being reflected towards us in the earth. So even if you have the strongest telescope, you're not able to see anything because there's no light. It's dark. This is the new moon. Now, in some non-Islamic lunar calendars, when this happens, the conjunction, when the earth, the sun, and the moon are in one line, this is when the new lunar month begins. This is in non-Islamic lunar calendars. Now, in Islam, the new moon does not signalize the new month. The new moon does not mean anything. Even if you are able to predict the new moon, that does not mean the new month began. When does the new month begin? The new month begins a few hours after that. Now, after the moon is perfectly between the earth and the sun, it starts to drift away once again. Once it starts to drift away, the first second that the light of the moon reaches earth, this is when the new moon begins. When the new moon is visible for us people on the earth, this is when the new month begins. And this requires, I'll speak about this in a few minutes, at least 10 or 20 hours after the new moon, before the moon is what? Is visible for us on earth. Now you may ask why? What's the proof? Why can't we consider the new moon as being the beginning of the new month? Why is it the visibility of the moon? Why not the new moon itself? The ulama, they mention many proofs. I'll just mention two simple, quick proofs. Number one, they refer to a verse in the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ Ya Rasulullah, they ask you about the moon, the crescent. What's the point of the moon? Can we benefit from the moon? Tell them, Ya Rasulullah, قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ. Tell them that the moon is a sign of fixed periods. Or in other words, the moon serves as a calendar for you. You can tell what day out of the month it is just by looking at the moon. Now, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mean by this? First, we have to understand the answer to a question that's always asked. Some people, they ask, why did Islam base its calendar on the moon? Why not on the sun? The solar calendar is much more accurate. It doesn't change like the one we use from January all the way to December. It's based on the sun. It's a solar calendar. So why didn't Islam base its calendar on the sun? It's much more predictable. It's much more accurate. You can plan 10 years ahead. July 4th, you want to travel. You know July 4th is not going to change. Christmas, you want to travel. It's not going to change. But what? But the lunar calendar keeps changing. It's either 29 days, 30 days. We don't know what day Eid is. It's either Monday or Tuesday. We can't plan ahead. We can't book our tickets because we don't know. So it's always what? It's always changing. So wouldn't it be better if Islam based its calendar on the sun? Because the solar calendar existed since the time of the Greeks. It's not something new. So when Rasulullah's time, Islam could have based its calendar on the sun. It was available. Science has reached that stage where they had the solar calendar even back then. So why? Why the lunar calendar? The ulama, they state that from this verse, it appears that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based the Islamic calendar on the moon, lunar, instead of the solar, for this reason. Because the lunar calendar is accessible to everyone. Even if you're a nomad, illiterate, living in the desert, you can tell what day out of the month it is so easily. How? Just go and look at the moon. Based on the size of the moon, you can tell what day it is. If it's a full moon, it's what? It's the middle of the month. If it's a half moon, it's toward 20, 22, or 10. If you don't see the moon, then you know it's towards the end of the month or the beginning of the next month. So based on the size of the moon, you can tell what day out of the month it is. It's accessible to everyone. You don't need an astronomer to tell you what day out of the month it is. And the Arabs, they could all determine what day out of the month it is, just by looking at the moon. But the solar calendar, it's not accessible to everyone. Can you tell me right now what day out of July it is without looking at your iPhones and planners? No. You had no clue. Only an astronomer is able to calculate what day in July it is. He has to look at the sun, the angle of the sun, the season, make some calculations, and then he could tell you what day it is. Or else an average person, it's not easy to calculate what day out of the solar calendar it is. But the lunar calendar, it's so easy. Just look for the moon and that's it. Just based on the size, you can tell what day it is. So because Allah wanted an easy system that's accessible to everyone, He based His calendar on the moon, not the sun. Now, when we take this analogy, we come to the beginning of the moon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ. Allah says that the moon is a calendar for everyone. Everyone can tell what day out of the month it is. You don't have to be an astronomer. Now, if Allah would have came and said that the new month begins with the new moon, who can tell the new moon? Can anyone here tell me without going back to astronomers when the new moon will be born? No one. You would have to be an astronomer. You'd have to make precise calculations to know when the new moon is born, correct? So once again, we'd need astronomers. The reason why Allah, He chose the lunar calendar rather than the solar calendar, even though the solar calendar is more accurate, is because He wants it to be accessible to everyone, easy. If once again He would have came and said, then the new moon, the new month begins with the new moon, once again we'd have to go back to the astronomer. So He's defeating the purpose of choosing the lunar month to begin with. He should have just chose the solar month. So Allah chose the lunar month because it's easy. Since He chose the lunar month because it's easy, the new month has to begin with something easy that everyone can tell. The new moon is only what? Is only for the astronomers. The Quran says, مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ. Everyone can tell when the new month begins. The new moon can only be told by whom? By the astronomers. So that's why the ulama, they say the new month can only begin by a phenomenon that everyone can tell. And that's none other than the visibility of the moon. Whenever you see the crescent, this is the new month. The new moon by itself is not enough because this is for the astronomers. Allah says, مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ, for everyone. It has to be an easy sign. So even if I know when the new moon is, the new month has not begun. We have to wait a few hours until the new moon is able to be seen. It's visible for us people on this earth. So this is number one. This verse in the Quran they use to prove that the new moon does not do anything. Number two, the second proof that they use to show that the new month begins with the visibility of the moon, not the new moon itself being born, is the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt. There are tens of ahadiths that the companions of the Imams, they used to come and ask the Imam, what do we do? Is tomorrow Ramadan or is tomorrow the end of Sha'ban? And likewise, they come in the end of Ramadan. Is tomorrow the last day of Ramadan or is it Eid? We don't know. The Imams would always give the same answer. What would they say? Two words. صُمْ لِلرُّؤْيَةِ وَافْطَرْ لِلرُّؤْيَةِ. If you see the moon ru'ya, then you start fasting Ramadan. If you see the moon, then you stop fasting, you consider Eid. If you did not see the moon, then you cannot consider tomorrow as Eid. You cannot consider tomorrow as the beginning of Ramadan. And that's why the ulama, they say, even towards the end of Sha'ban, if you did not see the moon of Ramadan, you cannot start fasting with the intention of Ramadan. Your fasting will be unaccepted. You have to fast with the intention of mustahab. You have to fast with the intention of ihtiyat. But if I intend on fasting Ramadan while the moon was not spotted, then I cannot fast with the intention of Ramadan. So the Imams would always give this answer. They would say, صُمْ لِلرُّؤْيَةِ وَافْطَرْ لِلرُّؤْيَةِ. You have to see the moon. It has to be visible. Now, does that mean that someone has to actually go and see it? No. The ulama say what the Imams mean by صُمْ لِلرُّؤْيَةِ وَافْطَرْ لِلرُّؤْيَةِ is that the moon has to be visible. So if someone wants to see it, it's visible. If it's not visible by the eye, then, or by the telescope based on the differences in opinion in the ulama's views, then you cannot consider tomorrow as Eid. So for example, if I know 100% the moon is visible, the crescent is visible, but there's a cloud in front of it. It's a cloudy day. So should I say tomorrow is not Eid because I didn't see the moon? No, tomorrow is still Eid because the moon is visible. So what the Imam means is the moon has to reach a stage in which if someone was to see it on a clear day, it would be visible. If the moon has reached that stage, then tomorrow is Eid. Then the new month has begun. Now if there's clouds or there's a storm, you did not see it, that does not mean tomorrow is not Eid. That does not mean the new month did not begin. Now, here you may come and you may object to this argument. You may say, wait a minute. The only reason why the Imam said صُمْ لِلرُّؤْيَةِ وَافْطَرْ لِلرُّؤْيَةِ, because back then, 1400 years ago, the only way for people to know the new moon is born is to see it. If you don't see it, how would you know it's born? So because science was not advanced, because they could not predict the new moon, the only way to know the new moon was to see it. Now, we don't need to see it. We don't need to wait until we see it. Science can tell us it's already born. So why can't we rely on science in telling this new moon? Ulama say no. This is not a valid argument. Why? Because don't think that astronomy is something new. Astronomy existed since the time of the Greeks. The Greeks could predict the new moon. Just read about it. So 1400 years ago, astronomers could predict the new moon. The only thing that happened now with all the advancement in science, they became a little more precise. So 1400 years ago, Astronomers could predict the new moon, but they would be 3-4 minutes off. Now they could tell you to the second when the new moon will be born. But at the end of the day, 1400 years ago, even the new moon, the Imams had a way to tell the new moon. So the Imams could have told their companions, go and ask the astronomers, when the new moon is born, whatever they tell you, then follow them. Couldn't they? But they didn't. They said, Sum lil-ru'ya. You have to see it, meaning it has to be visible. Just the new moon being born is not enough. The new moon has to what? The new moon has to reach that stage in which it is visible to us people on this earth. So, now that we understand that the new month in Islam begins with the visibility of the moon, not the new moon, we go to the second question. Can we use science to predict the new moon or not? Now, here I think the answer is clear already. Because the question will be, what do you want to use in science? There's one of two possibilities. You either want to use science to predict the new moon, or you want to use science to predict the visibility of the moon. Sahih? You choose one of two. If you say, I want to use science to predict the new moon, then the answer is already clear. Science is 100% accurate in predicting the new moon, but the new moon does me no good. The new moon means nothing. Even if Jibreel comes and tells me the new moon is born, so what? That does not mean the new month began, because we said what? The new moon does not begin the new month. The new month begins with the visibility of the moon, and that requires a few hours after that. The new moon begins with the visibility of them. So you can't use science to predict the new moon, because the new moon doesn't benefit you in any way. So then you'll say that, let's choose option B then. We'll use science to predict the visibility of the moon. Yes. Now this is the good criteria. The criteria for the new month is the visibility of the moon. So why can't we use science to predict the visibility of the moon? Do you know what the problem is? Science itself is not 100% accurate in predicting the visibility of the moon. And we can only accept science if it's accurate 100%. If science itself is not accurate, we can't accept it. With the new moon, it's accurate, but the new moon does me no good. There's no benefit in the new moon. Visibility of the moon is good, but science is not accurate. And I spoke to at least 3 astronomers about predicting the visibility of the moon. They themselves told me, when we say the moon will be spotted in your area by the naked eye, we're making a guess. We're making an assumption, a calculation. We could be wrong. 60% right, 70% right, 80%. There's always, 20, 30, 40% chance we could be wrong. And that's why you see many times that the moon sighting websites and the scientists, they say the moon will be spotted in your area. It's clear. Tens of people go, nobody sees it. So they themselves admit that we are not advanced that much in order for us to what? To say 100% that the moon will be visible in your area. Now sometimes, yes, sometimes it's very clear. They will tell you in your area 95% it'll be shown, it'll be seen. But sometimes they will tell you it's not clear. 50% chance, 40% chance. How can I rely on 40% chance? We can only rely on science if it gives us certainty. So that's the problem with relying on science to predict the moon. Science itself has not reached that stage in which it is 100% accurate. And that's why you see, my dear brothers and sisters, the astronomers, especially the Muslim astronomers I've seen, they say there are at least 4 things, 4 criteria that must happen before the moon is visible for the naked eye. They say the number 1 is the age of the moon. When the new moon is born, you can't see the moon. You have to wait at least 20 hours. If the moon is less than 20 hours old, you cannot see it with the naked eye. That's number 1. Number 2 is the elongation of the moon. Elongation means how far away it's from the sun, east or west. How much has it drifted away? It has to be at least 10 degrees away from the sun. If it's 30 hours old, but it's 5 degrees, away from the sun, you won't be able to see it, because the light of the sun will prevent you from seeing the moon. So it has to be at least 10 degrees away. If it's less, you won't be able to see it. Number 3, the elevation, the altitude of the moon. It has to be at least 8 degrees above the horizon. If it's less, you won't be able to see it, even if it's 30, 35 hours old. If it's too low, you won't be able to see it. And number 4, the lagging time. Lagging time means the time between sunset and moonset. It has to be at least 40 minutes. If it's less than 40 minutes, you won't see it. So only if all these criteria are met, only then you could see the moon with your eyes. Now, the problem is the astronomers themselves, they differ in these 4 criteria. One astronomer will say at least 20 hours. Another will say 25. Another will say 19. The elongation, some will say 10, some will say 8, some will say 12. So the lagging time, some will say 35 minutes, some 40. So when the astronomers themselves have disagreed so much on the criteria of predicting the moon, how can we rely on them? They themselves have differed so much. So when some scholars have reservations, when they don't want to rely on the predictions of the new moon, it's not because they're backward. It's not because they don't accept science. This is trying to blame the ulama for some of the problems that we have when they have no fault. It's not because they don't rely on science. It's because science itself has so much disagreements between the scientists themselves on what criteria you need to predict the moon. So that's why they themselves are not always accurate. But however, the ulama do state this, and Sayyid Sistani does mention this. He says, if there is a certain scientist or a certain website of moon sighting in which you, on a personal level, in which you personally believe in, it always gives you certainty on a personal level, then you can rely on it. That's okay. Let's say moonsighting.com. Over the past years, I have noticed personally that it's always accurate. For example, if I have noticed that it's always accurate, then I can rely on moonsighting.com. But however, I cannot impose moonsighting.com on others. I can't come and tell you, why isn't tomorrow Eid moonsighting.com? Brother, moonsighting.com is what? It's a scientist. That's his view. You want to accept his view? You can accept his view, but you can't impose it on other people. Me, maybe I'm not convinced of moonsighting.com. You're convinced. So it's a personal issue. That's why you see some people, they bring you the paper from a website. They tell you, oh, why don't the ulama accept this? Brother, this is just a guess. This is a calculation. You want to accept it? You can accept it if you believe this person is accurate. But you can't impose and force other people to follow it. Because this is not 100%. This is a guess. If you think it's a correct guess, this is your opinion. You can't impose it on other people. And that's why some years, the ulama, they do rely on some websites because they personally think this website, this scientist is correct, is always correct, or most of the times is correct, and they have certainty. So if you have certainty from a website or a scientist, you can rely on them, but we cannot impose it on other people because it's a personal thing. I think Crest is better than Colgate. Can I come and force you to buy Crest? No, it's a personal issue. You think Colgate is better. The same thing. I think moonsighting.com is accurate. Khalas, this is my personal opinion. I can't come and impose it on other people. Now, after understanding the second answer to the second question, can we use science or not? We saw the problem with science. We go to the third. We go to the third question. Why do the ulama disagree? You see, unfortunately, some of us, we always like to make things so simple. To us, the determination of the Eid, we think it's so easy. And that's why we attack the scholars. We say something as simple as the Eid, the ulama cannot decide and agree. They have to disagree. Brother, who told you deciding the Eid is easy? Did you go and read the ahadith? Did you read the Quran? Did you look at the academic discussions between the ulama and why they differ? Sometimes before we know anything, we make judgments. We're so ignorant, but we make judgments. Who told you it's a simple process? Brothers and sisters, the process of determining the Eid is one of the most difficult processes. It's not easy. It's because we're so ignorant, we think it's so easy. Why? You see, sometimes the ulama differ because their understanding of the hadith and the Quran differs. It's an academic dispute. It's not personal. Some, they think that when the ulama disagree, they have a personal problem. If, for example, if Sayyid X, he says tomorrow's Eid, why doesn't Sayyid Y accept that tomorrow's Eid? They think it's a personal problem because Sayyid Y doesn't accept Sayyid X. No, because Sayyid Y's views are different than Sayyid X. Let me give you an example. Let's say one marji' says tomorrow's Eid because the moon was spotted in Brazil. The other marji' says, okay, I accept the moon is spotted in Brazil, but Brazil does me no good because according to my understanding of Islam, the moon has to be spotted in your area. So let 50 million people see the moon in Brazil. So what? So this is an academic difference. They differ because their understanding of how the new moon begins, the new month begins, is different. One marji' says if it's spotted in your area, then you can consider tomorrow Eid. If it's spotted in another country, that's no good. Others, they say no, anywhere in the world it's spotted and you share a portion of the night with, then that's okay. Then you can consider Eid. So if I, for example, I'm a Sayyid Sistani, and I believe that if the moon was sighted in Brazil, tomorrow is not Eid. How can I say tomorrow is Eid? But you follow Sayyid Khoi. Sayyid Khoi says no. If it was sighted in Brazil, then it's enough for you. There's no way to unite these two people because the difference is academic. It's not because they don't accept each other. Sayyid Sistani says tomorrow is not Eid, even if the entire country of Brazil sees it. Sayyid Khoi says no, I believe according to the ahadith that tomorrow is Eid because Brazil is enough for you. So we have to always what? Make sure that we understand why the scholars are disagreeing. Because their understanding of how the new month begins is different. Another country suffices to one alim, another country does not suffice to another alim. There's no way they could what? They can reconcile. What? There's no way they can unite. That's one thing. Another thing is you find that some ulama sometimes they disagree is because when the hadith of the Imam said Sum lil-ru'ya, you can only start fasting, stop fasting if you saw the moon. What did the Imam mean by saw the moon? Some ulama they say that it has to be seen by the naked eye. Telescope is not enough. Other ulama say telescope is. So if you accept telescope, of course you could see the moon much earlier than if you wanted to see it with the naked eye. Likewise, once again, there's no way to reconcile. So if you come and tell Sayyid Sistani that tonight we could see the moon with a telescope, he says, so what? Telescope does me no good. We have to see it by the naked eye. So there's no way that we can reconcile. But you go to another marji', like Sayyid Fadlallah, he used to believe that if you see it with a telescope, that's enough. This is not because he doesn't accept the science or anything. It's because the hadith says the ru'ya. Ru'ya means by the naked eye. Telescope does me no good. The moon has to reach a stage in which it's at least 20, 25 hours old. If you see it with the telescope, you could see it as early as 10 hours. This does not mean the new month begins. So there's no way to reconcile between the different views. So we shouldn't simple everything, see everything as being so simple. And these ulama, they have personal vendetta, they have personal problems, that's why they don't agree. No. Because their views are different, then of course the Eid will be different. And finally, what's the solution? Fine. The ulama have the right to ijtihad. Each one has his own ijtihad, own understanding. Each one is going to have a different day of Eid. But in one community, we have people following different maraja. What's the solution for having one Eid? Sometimes we have two Eids. I remember one year we had three Eids. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some maraja Friday, some Saturday, and some Monday. So how can we resolve this problem? Some people see this as a huge problem, having more than one Eid. Now, first of all, my dear brothers and sisters, it's not a problem to begin with. So what? Let's have two Eids. Let's have three Eids. Let's have five Eids. So what? What's the big deal? Is it the end of the world if we have two Eids? Is it the end of the world that we have three Eids? Look at what's happening in other countries, my dear brothers and sisters. People are getting slaughtered every day. Look at what happened in Baghdad 2 nights ago. 215 people, I read the news right now, the death toll climbed to 215 people. Died in a few seconds. People are afraid to go shopping in Iraq. People are afraid to go to the masjid, and we sit here and complain why there's two Eids. We have no real problems, so what? Because we have no real problems, we sit and we make problems out of nothing. We create problems. Let there be 5 Eids, alhamdulillah, at least there's safety. At least, alhamdulillah, I sleep every night with a full stomach. At least I don't go hungry. There's children in Iraq and in Afghanistan and in other countries that sleep while they're hungry. They have no food. And I have to make so much chaos. Every year there's chaos about the Eid. Why is there 2 Eids? Why can't I? So what? Let there be 3 Eids. Is it the end of the world? Life is a test. Have some patience. Imam al-Mahdi is not here. What can we do? What's your solution? Tfaddal ya Allah. You tell us what's the solution. Imam al-Mahdi, if he was here, we'd all follow him. There would be 1 Eid. Imam al-Mahdi is not here. We have more than one marja'. What can we do? We kill the other maraja', yani? We make it a dictatorship, just one marja'. We have the door of ijtihad is open. Whoever goes to the house of studies, becomes a mujtahid, can be a marja'. He can give his view based on the Quran and the Hadith. So we can't force the ulama to agree. They can't. If a Sayyid Sistani believes tomorrow's Eid, how can he give fatwa? If he believes tomorrow is not Eid, how can he give fatwa tomorrow's Eid? You want Allah to take him to the fires of hell just so you eat one day sooner? If he believes tomorrow is not Eid, he truly believes tomorrow, how can he say tomorrow's Eid? It is haram to eat if tomorrow is not Eid. How can he say tomorrow is Eid? Allah will hold him responsible. And if the marja' believes tomorrow is Eid, how can he say tomorrow is not Eid? Each marja' has to follow what he thinks is right. And that's why I always say, my dear brothers and sisters, unity by itself is not a goal. Unity by itself is worthless. Unity is only valuable if it's with haqq. Unity on haqq. Or else, if I just want to unite and compromise the haqq, let's all become Christians. Let's unite with Christians. Wouldn't life be easier? Yes or no? With all the Islamophobia in the US, wouldn't life be easier if we just all go and become Christians? Let's unite with Christians. If unity is all you care about, let's go become a Christian, go become an atheist. Unity is only valuable if it's with the haqq, with the truth. I do not compromise the truth just to be united. If I believe my marja' is the most knowledgeable, and my marja' says the day after tomorrow is the Eid, khalas. So what? Let us be disunited for the sake of haqq. There's no other option. The other option is to compromise your principles, is to compromise what you believe is to be the truth. So we shouldn't make a big deal out of it, my dear brothers and sisters. Unity is good if it was with the haqq. But if it means I compromise the haqq, then you let unity go away. Imam Ali alayhi salam, I mentioned this many times. Imam Ali, he says, Al-haqq lam yubqi li sadiq. He says, because I always want to follow the haqq, I'm always alone. I'm always by myself and everyone else is somewhere else. Because everyone else want to chase after their desires. Imam Ali is always after the haqq. People don't want the haqq. People want unity. Fine, go be united on the batil. What's the point? Let's all become Sunnis then. Let's just unite with, all of a sudden just become Sunnis, let's become Christians. No, that's not how things work. Unity is only valuable if it's with the haqq. If it means that I compromise the haqq, it has absolutely no value. And that's why the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he tells Ammar, he tells him, Ya Ammar, إِذَا رَأَيْتَ النَّاسِ سَلَكُوا وَادِيًا وَعَلِيٌّ سَلَكَ وَادِيًا فَدَعِ النَّاسِ وَاتَّبِعْ عَلِيًّا. He says, if you see the whole world going one way, Ali just by himself going another way, leave the world, go after Ali ibn Abi Talib. Unity by itself, tell me which verse in the Quran tells us that unity is the most important thing, even if it's at the cost of haqq. No, Allah always condemns the majority. بَلْ أَكْثَرُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ بَلْ أَكْثَرُهُمْ لِلْحَقِّ كَارِهُونَ بَلْ أَكْثَرُهُمْ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ. Most people, they're always doing wrong. So unity, if it was possible, that's great. We love unity. But sometimes it's not possible. So we compromise our beliefs, we compromise our principles just for the sake of unity. This is wrong, my dear brothers and sisters. We have to be patient a little. This is a test. Consider it a test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That in the asr of the ghaiba of the imam is the occultation. The Shia are going to disagree. What can we do? We don't have one leader that unites us. There's going to be different leaders. When there's different leaders, each leader has his own view, just like different doctors have different views. Different mujtahideen, different maraja have different views. So this is perfectly normal. We shouldn't, take it out of proportion and make a big deal out of 2 or 3 Eids. And finally, if this is a very big deal for you, then the ulama have mentioned, and you all know this, that the solution, if you want to all come one day and have the Eid, those individuals that have the later Eid, like let's say this year, Wednesday, they can travel today, Fajr time, travel at least 15 kilometers or 15 miles outside the city limits, break your fast, halal, nothing wrong with that, absolutely no sin. You come back, you're not fasting, come, pray Salat al-Eid, nothing wrong with that. Have breakfast and enjoy that day, and then after Ramadan, make up one day. If you really want to have just one day of celebration, then those that have the later Eid, they can travel. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to, just come Wednesday. We have 2 Eids, you can come twice. So look at it in a good way. Instead of one day of celebration, now we have 2 days of celebration. Now, of course, your Eid will be the Eid that your marja' tells you. But still, you could still travel and come. And that's why, and I mentioned this a few nights ago, and I always mention this. I have never in my life witnessed the individuals that have the first Eid, I never see them coming again the next day. Meaning, it's always the ones that have the later Eid coming earlier. The ones that have the earlier Eid, they will not tell you, you know what, today is Eid, we'll just have a quiet celebration in our house, and then tomorrow, the second Eid, we'll go and do it with everyone else. No. It's all about what? It's all about breaking my fast earlier. It's all about earlier. It's not about having unity in Eid, most people. It's about having the earlier Eid. That's why those people that have the first Eid never complain. You never hear them speaking about unity, because who cares about unity as long as I can eat tomorrow? To hell with unity. It's always the poor guys, oh, they have to wait, they have to fast one more day. Why isn't there unity? They use unity as an excuse for their desires. It's all about 29 days we fast, we ruin everything in one night. No taqwa. What's the point you fasted 29 days? So you be patient, correct? Why do we fast for 29 days? To have taqwa, fear of Allah, to be patient. And then all of a sudden, night of Eid, we lose all that patience. Sometimes in some communities, I see fights, physical fights over the Eid. This guy follows this marja', this guy another marja', they start fighting. Just because of one day, just fast one more day. What's the big deal? And you don't want to fast, it's the end of the world for you, go travel, but don't make a big fuss out of it and commotion and start attacking the ulama, because Allah will hold you responsible on the Day of Judgment for what I have done. Some people it's because of their ignorance, others it's because of their desires. So we have to make sure that our goal is to please Allah, not to please my nafs and my desires. So this is the solution. Travel. If you don't want to fast tomorrow, travel and make it up later. And come and have one Eid. But however, and I always mention this, my dear brothers and sisters, this is never a solution to change your taqleed because you want to have one day earlier Eid. This is not a solution. Some people, they change their taqleed because his marja' is saying the Eid is the day after tomorrow. I change my taqleed to the marja' that says Eid is tomorrow. This is wrong. I'm playing games with Allah. Do you choose your marja' because he's easier or because he's faster in Eid? That's not the criteria. You choose the one that's the most knowledgeable, not the one that's easier. So changing my taqleed is not an option. If you truly believe your marja' is the most knowledgeable, who cares when Eid is? Khalas, you follow him, even if it's the day after tomorrow. Changing my Eid just because I want to have tomorrow, this is playing games. So we have to make sure that we don't do that, my dear brothers and sisters. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us all, to accept our a'mal in this blessed month of Ramadan. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the patience that we can endure the remaining minutes or the remaining day of Ramadan. I ask Him to accept our a'mal, and I would like to congratulate everyone that has the Eid tomorrow for this day of celebration, and whoever has the Eid the day after tomorrow, I would like to also congratulate them on this beautiful day of Eid. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you all. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin.